Welcome everybody to episode 11 of the Year of Love podcast. I'm your host, Alison Wu. So I promised you on the Year of Love podcast that not only would we show you tips and tricks and strategies on how to build a life you can love, but we would also introduce you to people who are doing just that. So excited to have this week's guest join us. Mary James is a female corporate leader and actually has a marvelous day job helping organizations understand the power of data and analytics. But we're actually here to talk about how Mary is incorporating a side hustle and a passion of hers to actually build a really fulfilling life. So Mary, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I am honored to be here.
Well, tell us a little bit about your day job. What's your normal life look like? What's your normal daytime job look like?
Yeah. So I lead a department of about 100 data analysts, and we use all sorts of data, traditional approaches to gathering data, social media and digital data to help our clients, who are companies in the pharmaceutical and life sciences realm, better understand their customers.
Such an important thing in this day and age. You also, though, have a really interesting side hustle, and you are the CEO of your organization. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I am the founder and chief candle officer, as I call it, of Saucy Candle LLC. I founded it in 2020, about 2 months into the pandemic, when we were all trying to find what a life we love looks like in a pandemic. And I actually used it as a way to meet neighbors. And I went around and gave anybody who on our neighborhood Facebook page wanted a candle, I gave them a candle in their mailbox. And out of that, this business was born.
Mary, I mean, talk about like living a life of light. Literally, you are lighting that. I love this. You have some of the most incredible scents. I'm holding up your Oh Honey, which is spiced honey and tonka. Ah, it smells so good. So first of all, were you a candle maker before the pandemic? Like how and why candles?
So I had dabbled. I love candles. I had been like a Bath and Body Works, like whenever they came out with those 3 for $14 sales, I was all about it. But I wanted something that would burn a little cleaner. So the big box stores, while they have like a great variety of scents, their wicks are not usually cotton wicks. And so the wicks I use are clean burning. I wanted a clean burn. I also wanted to be able to pick my scent. That was like really important to me. And I was looking for a craft I could do with my hands. And when you make candles, your hands get dirty and you can't just be scrolling on your phone all the time. So something that took me out of that kind of digital space I was always in into something really physical. So I actually started pouring in 2018. Moved to North Carolina. I had packed up all my candle stuff, but when the pandemic hit, I pulled it back out because I just needed an outlet that wasn't work every day.
And how have you found the blend between kind of like left brain, right brain, right? These are two different types of activities. What has each side given the other?
Oh, such a good question. I think that it's very interesting. So what I found in the journey is it's less about the creativity of making the candle now for me. It's more about running a small business. What does your social content look like? How do you build partnerships in the community? So everything is micro, whereas everything in my day job is macro, like big budgets, right? But candles, we're selling for like $20, which I know is expensive, but they are premium quality products. But micro versus macro. So there are things in my day job that I learn, about ways my clients are reaching their customers that I can apply in a smaller scale in candles. There's also a lot I've learned about, I do a lot of white label work. So, there are a couple of coffee shops locally who I design labels for them, and then they purchase white labeled candles from me. I've learned a lot through client management in my day job, to partnership building in my side business. So I think there's a lot of translation there. I also think I've gotten more creative at work. I always liked building slides, and now I can take some of the design principles that I've learned in like designing labels or designing inserts for my candle packages and bring them into making our slides pop a little more.
And did you find that there was a piece around, like, are you tapping into that inner entrepreneur? I mean, there's a piece, right, about being an entrepreneur where it's a little bit scary because you're out on your own, but now you have the balance of actually being fairly secure, right? Because you've got your day job as well. Did you find that you are somebody who now are becoming more entrepreneurial in the way that you're thinking about launching things different ways?
100%. And I stepped into leading my department in November. And so I actually think that spending basically 2 years focused on building the LLC on the side, I was able to take, like, I had to chunk out a lot of the candle business building because I didn't have time. And now I don't have time in my day job to really think about the strategy for the business all the time. And so the chunking out I did with the candle business, I'm now doing in my day job too. So I think there's just like this really nice interplay. I also like that I can in some ways switch between like macro corporate to micro small biz, and I get to have both of those things be part of my identity, which was really important to me too.
Yes, because now you're not just married, this, high flying corporate executive, you're also married candle maker. And I love that you're giving these to your neighbor. What's been the reaction for people? What have you seen? It's been.
It's funny. A lot of people say like, oh, when do you sleep? Or like, how do you do it all sort of things. And I never am trying to be like a do it all, or I do sleep. I'm like really committed to my sleep and my mental health. That's part of the reason I do the candle business. Like I said, that's why I started it in the first place. It gets me out of my world. It's like a creative outlet for me. And even running the small business, like I'm happy to wake up at 6 a.m. and work on the small business. That brings me a great deal of joy. So that's been the reaction. I mean, it also just, I moved here to North Carolina to actually have an office to go to for my day job. And so when I moved here, I only knew people from my day job. And so for me to establish myself as this candle maker in the small business community gave me another identity outside of my work. And I just think it's so important that even if our day job takes up a lot of our time, like we are a human first, instead of like, I don't want to be known as a corporate executive first. I want to be known as a human who does lots of things and is multifaceted.
Yeah, and I think we're really kind of coming to a really interesting time, right? Where many of us who have the opportunity to work digitally, virtually, are being able to do and actually really round out a lot, like the time we would have spent commuting to roles, we're repurposing that time in a lot of ways. I think the other thing that you talk about, Mary, I mean, you're really happy and really, really good at your job. And sometimes people start a side hustle, like when they're like, look, I gotta get out of this thing, I've gotta make something else. So it's a lot less pressure, I would imagine. Let's talk about the scents, because let's talk about some of the fun things. How do you come up with the scents and the names? Because they're really unusual combinations.
Yeah, so I have a lot of, I am not a scent mixer, I should say that. I dabble a little bit, but I mean, there are companies that is their bread and butter. So I do a lot of sampling. I mean, probably every season, because I've released seasonal boxes, I probably experiment with like 50 samples. And so what happens is my entire house, I'll have like a candle in the living room, candle in the kitchen, candle in every single bathroom. Because one thing people I think don't realize is the way it smells when we call it the cold throw, when it's not burning, can be different. It can be stronger. It can be slightly have a different characteristic to it than when you burn it. And so that's called the hot throw. So I like to do a cold throw, and I'm very data driven about it, of course, because I'm a data person, and actually I rate everyone and then I rate them on their hot throw and I start to narrow down. And once I have the sense, that's where the creative process really comes in for me, is naming them. Because I launch seasonally, I try to have some sort of a feel, a vibe, but not like so overtly. Like if we're doing a Christmas scent, for example, my last one, I called it Hearth, which gives you a sense of maybe cozy by the fireplace, but isn't overtly Christmas. And And so I always try to keep it a little bit subtle. In the fall, I've had a scent I named Golden Sky, which felt very fall-like to me, but again, not in your face, like not labeled autumn leaves. So that's where my creativity, I think, comes in with the names.
And I love that you are using your house in so many ways. I mean, so like, right, you're not only burning the candles, but like, where are you making the candles?
Right behind me in my kitchen. This bar is, I can fit over 100 candle jars. I gotta pour them really tightly, but I've gotten pretty good at my steady hand. And that's what I do. I pour them in this table that I'm sitting at. I set up, my husband made, it's right here, I'll show you. My husband made me this for my birthday. It is my pouring,
oh,
my
wow.
pouring pot. And so I melt the wax in it.
I love that it's a full family, you know, everybody in the family is getting into it. Do you have like a production line? Do you get out all your, you know, people together and okay, label, ship, etc.?
Yeah, he does all the stamps and builds all the boxes. He used to work in a box warehouse, so we're just bringing that back for him.
So that's amazing. And is this something, so what do you think? Do you ever see yourself on Shark Tank doing something like this? Is this something you think, like, do you have a plan of like where you want this to go? Or is this like, right now, this is amazing and you're gonna keep going with this and follow the next logical conclusion?
I am, unlike, I think, my professional career, I am trying really hard to do this and make it fun and not have it be too goal oriented. Now, when I started, because the pandemic was so strange and everything was so strange, I thought, well, maybe one day I'll be a full-time candle entrepreneur. And I've let go of that a little bit. If that happens, that's wonderful. I believe like anything's possible. But I'm just, my North Star or my compass is really about, is it fun? If it's not fun, I don't do it.
And I think there's no other way to live a life you love. And it has to be fun and it has to be joyous, right? And bring a lot of light. All right, so Mary, tell everybody where they can find your fabulous candles.
Yes, so saucycandle.com. We are working on a spring release right now. It's going to be a little bit different than the releases we've done before. And I'm going to, this is another thing, experimentation, right? I'm opening up for ordering on the website just for 1 week, and then it's going to be closed until the summer. So if you follow us on social media, and if you join our email list, you will be notified when the shopping carts open. And I highly recommend you get in there and order what we have in inventory.
Okay, that sounds amazing. We're all ready for spring and some gloriousness after a really hard winter everywhere. And it's always a great time for a lot of light. So Mary, thank you so much for sharing just your journey with us and your passion. It's really exciting. I can tell you it absolutely clean. It burns beautifully without any of that soot. So I'm a big fan of them too. So thank you so much for starting something that is just fun and filled with passion.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I think it's awesome you're doing this.
It's funny because I too feel that thing of feeling like, you know, I have a lot more energy as well. So yes, so here's to the side gigs that don't have to do anything else except make our life more joyous.
Yes, I love that.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.